Welcome to the April edition of What's in Bloom at the Ruth Bancroft Garden. We prepare a sheet for our garden visitors each month, highlighting a selection of the plants that are in flower in that particular month. And so we're going to walk you through some of the selections for April. Australia has lots of unique plants, and a good example is the genus Xanthorrhoea. So these used to have their own family, actually, Xanthorrhoeaceae, but now they are included in the Asphodelaceae, the same family as the aloes. Well, this is a very small one, Xanthorrhoea nana. Nana means small. So we refer to these plants as grass trees because a lot of them do get a considerable trunk in time and get to be tall, but not this one. This one is over 40 years old, and that's as big as it's gotten in all that time. The inflorescence is a spike like this with little tiny white flowers. These three here are last year's flowers, and this is the new one that's just opening up. So there's not very many flowers open yet, but you can see they're like little white starbursts coming out of the inflorescence. Xanthorrhoeas are very slow growing, long lived plants. As you can see, this one already 40 years old. And many of them do eventually get a trunk, but this one is very slow to do so. And even a really old plant might have a couple of feet of trunk, but never very much. Marvelous plant from Western Australia, Xanthorrhoea nana. The Protea family is a southern hemisphere family, and the two countries with the most species are South Africa and Australia. So from Australia, we have things like Banksias and Grevilleas, and from South Africa, things like Leucospermums and Leucadendrons and Proteas. So this one is a Leucospermum. So that's a large genus of shrubs, mostly native to South Africa, and they are called pincushions. And the reason they're called pincushions is because the stigmas protrude from the flower head, as you can see over here, like little pins sticking out. They are very showy plants, and this one is a hybrid called Blanche Ito, and it's really just getting going. So we have a few of the flower heads that have the styles protruding, showing that they are actually fully mature, but a lot of them are still to come. So this is going to be going on for quite a while here. This is as I said, a South African native, and they occur mostly in fynbos vegetation. So that's a vegetation type, sort of like our chaparral here in California, of shrubs, and a lot of things that come from that area are unique to South Africa because that's a vegetation type that doesn't occur elsewhere. Blanche Ito was bred in Hawaii in a breeding program on Maui. And we're really glad to have it in our selection here at the Bancroft Garden because it puts on such a show, and we'll be doing so for quite a while. The genus Nolina is a North American genus that occurs in the southern United States and widely also in Mexico. This is one of the shorter Nolinas. This is the Texas sacahuista or Texas beargrass, Nolina texana. So, of course, the name because it comes from Texas. So this is one of the ones that looks like a clump of grass. If it wasn't in flower, you might suspect it was a clump of grass. The name bear grass is applied to this, but also applied to other things that are totally unrelated. So don't take these common names too seriously. But some of the larger nolinas, like some of the ones in Mexico, can become considerable trees in time. I've seen one in eastern Mexico that was about 30 feet tall. So that would be a really large Nolina. And here we have a small one. So on some of the Nolinas, the flowers come well above the leaves. And this one, they do not. You can see they're down here among the leaves. So the flowers are creamy white usually, but sometimes purple tinge at the bud stage. So there's sometimes a nice transition from the purplish buds to the creamy white open flowers. These plants are very attractive to bees, and we do have lots of bees that come and visit these flowers. They have separate male and female plants, and the bees are attracted to the male plants to collect pollen, and the female plants that have nectar, and when they fly back and forth, they cross-pollinate and fertilize the flowers. So Nolina texana is our first Nolina to bloom each year and just coming to bloom now at the end of March as we film this segment. Nolina texana. Winter and spring are a big time of year for aloes at the Ruth Bancroft Garden, and we have lots of both species and hybrids. We have species like here, Aloe vombe from Madagascar, and hybrids like this one that I made myself, which is Aloe excelsa ex petricola. When you are making a hybrid, you're cross-pollinating between two different species, or sometimes two different plants that are already hybrids themselves, and you are trying to combine features of the two parents in a way that does something that you're aiming for. And it's always nice when it works. Sometimes you think, oh, I'd like to have the blue color of the leaves on this one with the bright red flowers on this one, and you get neither the blue leaves nor the red flowers in your offspring. But sometimes things come out as you had envisioned them, and this is a good example. So Aloe excelsa is a large, tall-growing plant, mostly from Zimbabwe, and it has a very highly branched inflorescence, but it's not bicolored. So here you see that bicolor, the bright red buds turning to greenish-white open flowers, and that is a trait of the other parent, Aloe petricola. So I had hoped to get the long racemes and the bicolored effect from the Aloe petricola and the many branches from the Aloe excelsa, and that's just what I got. So very lovely plant. So when this one has not quite opened yet, the whole inflorescence is all red. And then as the flowers reach maturity and start to open, they turn white, and then you get this bicolored red and white effect as you see here. Aloe excelsa ex petricola. This plant here is Pelargonium echinatum. So pelargoniums are in the geranium family. In fact, many of the plants grown by nurseries and florists as geraniums are actually pelargoniums. This one here is from South Africa, from northwestern South Africa, in the winter rainfall zone, and it is a winter growing plant. So right now, at the end of the winter, it's in full leaf and just flowering to beat the band. Later on in the summertime, it will shed its leaves, and at that time, the spiny stems become visible. Not very many pelargoniums have spiny stems, and this one does, although you can't see them now because the leaves are present. The flowers start out white with maroon blotches on them and then become pale pink and then deeper pink as they age. So you get this assortment of whites and pinks with the plants in flower. This is having a very good flower year and really dozens and dozens of inflorescences coming out on it now. It has a very different look in the summer when the leaves and flowers are not present, and it has these spiny stems. So it's interesting at all times of the year. Pelargonium echinatum. Eucalyptus is a huge genus in the myrtle family, Myrtaceae, and the great majority of them come from Australia. Here in California, eucalyptus kind of has a bad reputation in a lot of people's eyes because of the blue gum. So this is a large species that grows in southern Australia and in Tasmania, and it's become kind of invasive in parts of Northern California and Central California. However, the great majority of eucalyptus are not invasive at all, and a lot of them are very different from the blue gum. This one here is Eucalyptus preissiana, so it's more of a bush than a tree, has nice bluish leaves and bright yellow flowers. So it's in full bloom now and very, very popular with pollinators. So the bees come and visit the flowers, other insects do as well, and the hummingbirds too. We had hummingbirds practically fighting over the flowers here the other day. It really is a sight when it comes into flower and attractive all the time because of the attractive blue leaves. It's known as the bell-fruited mallee, and if you can see the older fruits here on it, they are shaped like a bell, so that's the source of that name. It is a plant we've had here at the garden for almost 50 years, and it has never made one single spontaneous seedling. So it's not really anything like an invasive plant like people associate the blue gum with. Eucalyptus preissiana. This brings us to the close of our April edition of What's in Bloom at the Ruth Bancroft Garden. But before we go, I'd like to point out a wonderful bulb that's in bloom now, and this is an iris relative from South Africa, and it's called Ferreria crispa. So Ferreria flowers kind of look like starfish, and they're usually crinkly and have unusual colors and are quite delightful. But because it's a short plant and the flowers are not all massed in a cluster, a lot of people miss it when they come into the garden. But if you come to the garden, pay attention as you walk in to this Ferreria crispa. It has an unusual fragrance to the flowers, and it's really got a lot of flower stalks, some of which are open now and some of which not, and a variation in flower colors. So this one right here has flowers that are more of a yellow color with green tips, and this one here has more brown in it, just variations of the very variable Ferreria crispa. I would like to say, if you are able to come to visit the garden, this is a great time of year. Spring is springing, things are coming to bloom all over the place. But if you're not nearby and can't come to visit, check out our website. We have all kinds of offerings. We have classes, we have what's in bloom videos, we have Tumblr postings, we have all sorts of things to check out. The Ruth Bancroft Garden.